name is Misty Blue. I'm 24 years old. I live in San Mateo, California. I am currently a nurse in cardiology at the Palo Alto Veterans Hospital. Currently, I am still in school. I'm studying for my bachelor's degree in nursing, and I'm doing it online right now so that I can take care of my current health needs. I live with my husband in San Mateo, and we live next to the bay. I was born with cloacal exstrophy and spina bifida at Stanford Hospital in Palo Alto. Currently, I'm taken care of by Dr. Kennedy in urology at Lucile Packard Children's Hospital. I've had a double spinal fusion. I have a Mitrofanoff, I have an ileostomy, and just a lot of urological, GI, and musculoskeletal issues. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my early years. I grew up in foster care because my mother passed away at age 5 from endocarditis, which is what she got from her years of heroin and other drug use. I was 5 years old when she got arrested and I was placed into foster care. About a year later, she had another daughter. Her name is Brandy. Right after she was born was when my mother passed away. So because my mother passed, I never got to leave foster care. I was in foster care for 14 years in the state of California. I was placed in a couple homes before I ended up in one in Redwood City, which is where I stayed for the majority of my years until I turned 18. She was fairly nice to me while my mother was alive, but after my mother passed away, things changed very drastically. Basically, what she did was a lot of trying to break me. She tried to dehumanize a lot of my special needs and make me feel like it was my fault and I should be ashamed and be subservient to other people in the house because of what I had. Shortly after my mother died, my room was stripped. Before that, I had a very nice little girl's room. After that, everything was taken down off the walls. All my toys were taken away and sold in a garage sale. I didn't even have a bed. I just had a mattress on the floor with no sheets and a baby's receiving blanket. There were no TV, no books, and the lock on the outside of my door was switched around so it could be locked from the outside, so I couldn't come in or go out. There was a peanut butter jar that she had taken, one of those big ones, that she had taken a screwdriver or a knife, I'm not sure which, and punched a hole in the top, and she put a catheter in it. And that catheter would have to last for about 2 to 3 months, and that is how I was allowed to use the restroom. I wasn't allowed to use the restroom in the house for my ostomy. I had to go outside on the front porch or in the backyard and use Ziploc baggies and throw it in the trash there because she didn't want me to use the bathroom in the house because she didn't like it. It was my job to do most of the housework, including the yard work, garbage, keeping up after the kids, the meal preparation, laundry, babysitting, you name it. I wasn't allowed to have nice clothes to wear. I wasn't allowed to keep up my own appearance. I wasn't allowed to bathe, wash my hair, wear deodorant, shave. I would try to go to school and try to get there early so that I could use the school's bathroom with the hand soap and the sink to try to wash my hair and clean myself up. I didn't have nice clothes. A lot of my clothes came from hand-me-downs from Danielle, an older foster sister who lives in my house. Well, she wasn't really older, we were the same age, but she was bigger than me, so her clothes became my clothes. Or I didn't do a good enough job cleaning what she had told me to do, or I didn't exactly follow her directions word for word on how to get somebody dressed, or I cooked the wrong food for dinner or whatever. I'd have to write sentences. I'd have to write 1,000 sentences, and then I increased to 2,000, increased to 5,000. I could be writing sentences for a week as a punishment for not doing something up to par for what she said. that includes my health. If my ostomy broke, or I got a gas leak in it, or the clamp wore out, or my Mitrofanov started to leak a little bit, it was my fault. There was no medical malfunction, there was no appliance malfunction. I did it on purpose because I wanted to make her mad, is what she thought. So I'd get in a lot of trouble. I had my Mitrofanov done when I was 10 years old. Up until that time, I was in pull-ups. I had a bunch of failed bladder closures and augmentations that didn't quite work. So when I was still in pull-ups, she rationed those off too, even though the state provided enough for me to use. She decided that it would be more controlling. She could control me better if she could ration how many diapers I had. But because I was incontinent, I couldn't help how much I urinated or not. So oftentimes at school, I wouldn't have enough pull-ups and I'd be wet, or I'd come home and I'd be wet. And that would get me into trouble too. Obviously, I did it on purpose to upset her, according to her logic. After I got my Mitrofanov, and up until now, I've had problems with passing the catheter. Not so sure why. There might be like a twist or a kink or a curve in the pathway, or maybe because as I grew older, the pathway sort of moved. Either way, if my bladder gets too full, or I get sick, or sometimes I can't even figure out the reason, it won't pass, and I have to go to the emergency room to get a bladder tap, where they take the needles and they have to manually aspirate the urine from your bladder. I would be in so much trouble when I got home from those ER trips, because she felt that I did it on purpose, so I would have to take time out from her day to go to the hospital. So it's kind of the way I grew up. Growing up in the foster home with that particular foster mother, we lived in the same house for quite a number of years. And after I started to get bigger, I started to fight back from being locked in that room. And one day, I got so frustrated because I got the rotavirus. I was having diarrhea, I was vomiting, I was very, very sick. And she went to the doctor and told them that I got sick on purpose because I was eating dirt, which was the most ridiculous thing, but the doctor bought it. Anyway, when I got home, I was locked in the room. I had a full ostomy. I couldn't empty it. The door was locked. I couldn't get out. So next thing I could think was the window. If any of that got on the floor, was I ever going to get my butt beat? So I pushed out the screen on the window and emptied my ostomy out there, and I vomited a lot. The next day, she waited till all the kids were out front playing with the neighborhood kids to drag me out by my hair to say, how dare you, poo and vomit all over the side of my house. Look what you did to my house, on purpose to make sure the whole neighborhood saw it. But there was one girl in the neighborhood, and she became one of my best friends growing up, and her name was Brienne. She lived around the corner from me. If you went to the backyard of my house, she lived on the other side of the backyard fence, so all the way around the corner. After that, Kathy no longer locked me in the room, because after she had made me scrub the house in front of everybody and told everybody that I went to the bathroom out of my belly button and you should stay away because she stinks, I was so embarrassed and so angry when I got put back in the room. I kicked the wall and my foot went through it. Then I realized these walls are kind of like paper. I didn't really know what wallboard was, but I realized my foot could go through it. So when she went to work, I made a hole big enough to climb out and get outside, and I ran away to my friend Brienne's house. And I would run away to her house often throughout the years. She knew what was going on. She knew my health problems, and her family had some problems themselves. She lived with her grandmother, an elder grandmother. So her grandmother wasn't healthy enough to help me, but Brienne was. So I would go to her house and I would eat and have something to drink and try to wash up and, play. We were little girls. So because I kicked the hole in the wall, she realized I was a bit too big to be locking in the house. So I got locked in the backyard instead, which was fine for me. I had sunshine, I could be outside, and so the garage door was locked, so I couldn't get inside and use the bathroom and things like that. She unscrewed the faucet on the hose so I wouldn't have anything to drink. That was one of the things that she controlled me with, was I wasn't allowed to eat and I wasn't allowed to drink. And I didn't have a catheter, so I couldn't urinate until she came home and relieved my bladder, which meant my bladder would fill up to the point of rupture and I'd have to go to the ER. But that was my fault, which was her way of making me feel like I would do it to myself. So I started thinking, how do I get out of the backyard then? I need to take care of myself. I need to have food. I need to drink. It's the summer. There's nothing to drink. I'm going to die of well, not die, but I get overheated or dehydrated. So I tried to climb the fence. I'm too small. Trying to climb the fence, some of the boards were loose and I accidentally fell back and the board came with it. So I realized, oh, the board comes out. So I started kicking away at the fence and I managed to carefully pull out the boards and the nails in a way where I could put it back. That summer was awesome. I figured out a way to get out and play and have a good time and get food to eat and be back home before she came back home from work. I don't think she ever knew how I got so healthy that summer. I went from very gaunt and not looking like I was thriving at all to the next year going back to school looking like a healthy kid. I don't think she ever figured it out. But I owe a lot to Brianne. She was a good friend to me growing up.